Hello everyone. I, Dr. Atul Patil, a member of the organizing committee of ELT Summit 2020, welcome you all to the second plenary talk of the day. I know that attending the session after a lunch slot where tummies are full and minds are drifting is a little challenging. However, you need not worry because this session is certainly going to capture your attention and provide you with an enriching experience of listening to Ms. Marjorie Rosenberg. She will not let you fall asleep or take a nap as the session is going to be a new feather in the cap. I really deem it my great pleasure and privilege to welcome you, ma'am. I would now like to take this opportunity to introduce our today's speaker. Ms. Rosenberg, originally from the US, taught at the tertiary level for over 20 years in Graz, Austria, and currently works with corporate clients, trains teachers, and writes ELT materials. Her publications include In Business, To Business Advantage Personal Study Books, CD-ROM materials for FCE and CAE by Cambridge University Press, English for Banking and Finance 2 by Pearson, a revised version of Pass BEC Vantage on Learning Styles by Delta Publishing, and Creating Activities for Different Learner Types by Wayzgoose Press. She has recently revised Communicative Business English Activities by Express Publishing and is one of the core authors of Business Partner by Pearson. She has held workshops and talks at more than 100 international conferences and been a plenary speaker at over 20 conferences around the globe. She served as the chair of TEA, Teachers of English in Austria, from 2003 to 2005, and as International Association of Teachers of English as a Foreign Language Business English Special Interest Group Coordinator from 2009 to 2015. From April 2015 to April 2018, she held the post of IATEFL VP and President as a member of the IATEFL Board of Trustees. So we are really very glad to have you, ma'am, with us. And I now request you to take over and begin with the session. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very, very much, Atul. So, just waiting for my slide. Okay. I don't see my slide.
It's getting uploaded, ma'am.
It's getting uploaded. Great. Yeah. Okay. Well, just to welcome everyone, it's delightful to be here. I grew up hearing stories about India because my father was there during the Second World War and had wonderful photos and small objects that he had brought back for us. I've unfortunately never managed to travel there, and who knows when we can travel again, but I'm very glad to be able to present this today to you. The background of this talk, I was asked to give my very first plenary in Frankfurt, Germany, and the organizer said that many teachers felt they could not stretch out of their comfort zones. So I began working on ideas for what we actually can do. And I divided it into several areas and then did crowdsourcing. So you're going to see ideas from around the world. In addition, I took a look at what I've done to see what we can actually do in the classroom. Okay, so next slide. I don't think I can change the slide. So can we? Yes. Many of us are in our own little worlds when we teach. This is especially true if we're in adult education and there's no teacher's room. So if this is true for you, just type yes in the chat box quickly. We often don't see other people at all. Yes, yeah. Okay, so, yeah. let's go to the next slide. So about you, I would like to know how long you've been teaching and how often you do something new. If you can type something in the chat box, that would be great. 6 years, okay. 20, 7, 12, oops, yep. 10, 31, yeah, okay. I'm going on 40 in the next couple of years. Yeah, every day. I'm not teaching every day at the moment. And how often you manage to do something new? I don't think I manage every day at this point because I'm not teaching that many hours, but that's wonderful. That's fantastic. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So, do you feel stuck? Are you in a rut? This is a photo of kids in mud, and we're going to look at the ideas to get out of it. So we can go to the next slide. And what keeps us from trying out new things? Are these true for you? If there's anything specific there. Yes. Okay. And the picture shows us running into that proverbial brick wall sometimes. Lack of time, okay. Lack of resources. Okay, well then this presentation hopefully will have lack of time again. Okay. Good. Okay, let's have a look at what a teacher actually is before we look at what we can do, not knowing where to start. Okay, well, I hope you get some ideas here. So this is what I think a teacher is and what my colleagues in social media also said. I think we live our jobs. It's not just a job that we go to. We are teachers. And we want to be around people. We know how to listen to others. We also constantly learn and we try things out and we can meet challenges. We have empathy for our students. And for us, discovering new things is part of what we do and who we are. Okay, let's look at another example of what a teacher is. Next one. Yeah, have a look and see if you agree with this. Yeah, exactly. As an adult ed person, I don't deal a whole lot with some of these. I don't need to be a surrogate parent, but walking encyclopedia, absolutely. We don't have a lot of government directives to read because I'm teaching in companies, but so many of these, yeah. That's us, all of us. So have you asked yourself what you can do about this? Let's have a look. Let's go to the next one. And there are different ways we can get there. We can take a super highway to change what we're doing. We can take a trip down an old country road. We might have barriers in our way, which we didn't expect. That's the picture in the left-hand bottom corner. And then this one from Greece, which shows it may not matter which road we take as long as we get there, that all roads lead to the same place. Okay. So let's have a look at what we're going to be looking at. These are the areas that I broke this down into. We can try out new methods, new subjects, new technology, continuing professional education or development, our learning styles, our colleagues, our PLN, this is our personal learning network, and a new area of ELT. Okay, and these are the people that contributed to this talk. Just kind of a quick look. Next one. Yes, so you see there are people from around the world. I think some 22 people or so answered this from at least 20 countries. On the next slide, you can see where they come from. Yeah, really had a wide group of people who answered my question. Okay, let's have a look at new methods. So this is some dice that came from, I believe, Ukraine. This is either Ukrainian or Russian. I can't read it, but this was an idea that a colleague had. So let's see what colleagues had to say. The next one. Samira in Algeria used a riddle from Shakespeare. And Gabriella had students create their own revision packages, and then share the work online. So this can certainly be done at the moment. I did this as well with my university students. I had them write a test for each other, which meant they actually had to study the material to find out what was probably going to come. The next one. And Natalia uses unplugged. Now, go back. Can we go back one? I'm finished. The one before. Yeah, Natalia uses theater and unplugged teaching, so no books. And Christina uses TPR, total physical response, which is something that is often used for children, but she used it with adults. Okay, so let's have a look at the ideas for these new methods. Cooperative learning groups, they have to be interdependent on each other and work together to share ideas, and each one has a role so that nobody can hitchhike, as we say. They must take part. Project work, music, art, and drama, you can also do this online, and learner diaries. These are just some ideas of new methods you can use. Okay, the next one is new subjects. We have, yes. So I chose this particular one because I used to teach students who were learning nutrition and cooking. And one of the things we did in English was to cook a Thanksgiving dinner together. So some of the new subjects people taught. Next slide. Yeah, this is Sue, who talked about getting new people all the time. She had to find things. And I like her last line. She negotiates content, and if you look interested, it usually turns out okay. Okay, the next one. Yeah, and Emma works only online. She gets topics, sends the students instructions for grammar and vocabulary, and listens and gives them feedback. Okay, the next one. So we can teach something with CLEL or ESP, so content and language integrated learning, or English for specific purposes, or expand it to another area where you're an expert. If you are very good at something else, I have a colleague who is an English teacher and a translator, and she's now teaching yoga online. Invite an expert for another field into your class and team teach, or find articles about specific topics and lead class discussions. One thing I forgot to mention, we are going to make the PDF of this available so that you will have all of this for later. You don't have to madly take notes. Okay, so new technology. Let's go on to ideas. Yes, Elena uses Prezi, Vocaroo, and has tried out MentorMob to organize YouTube clicks. And Sergio likes to use his iPad and apps. I'm trying to read the chat. If anyone does these as well, oops. Okay. It opened up and, all right. Yeah, great. Okay, next one. I didn't want to stop the presentation. Next slide. Okay. Samira, who did the poem from Shakespeare, uses bit strips. Does anyone use these? These are cartoons. Trying to see the chat. There was another thing I missed because we moved the slide. Can we go back one? Yeah, using a wiki with MA students. You could also do something like Moodle. Okay, the next slide. So ideas for the classroom, using Moodle or another learning platform. Finding videos from the internet, and you're going to see a couple examples. Mobile phones, all kinds of things, recording, taking, showing photos, holding an online course, as many of us are doing, or discussing the technology around us. What's here? What's in the classroom? Okay, let's go on to CPT. Okay, continuing professional development. This slide was from a conference, which you are now all attending. The face-to-face ones, we don't know when they'll start again, but any kind of continuing professional development is something we all need to be aware of and make use of. Okay, next. Yeah, so there's cornered in our newspapers. Aha, great. Okay, Sue, who does all kinds of continuing professional development, and Omid, who did the TKT course and train the trainer courses, and found that it was really important working with others. All right, next. Okay, next slide. Yeah, Sandy, back one. Sandy, who's very, very active online. Can we go back one? Yeah, is blogs, watches webinars. We've had a Zoom chat since all this started just to catch up. And Hannah in the Czech Republic, who I finally got to meet in person at a seminar or a conference, connects with everyone again through webinars, blogs, and so on. Dana in Argentina doing an online leadership course, and Sylvia doing an MA in Manchester. Okay, next. Maine in Armenia, CELTA course, and Sergio, who did his MA. Yeah, next. So ideas, go to conferences if you can, or take part in these online web conferences, webinars, set up training sessions with colleagues. You can organize swap shops online, set up a Zoom meeting with colleagues and exchange ideas. Plan a course with a colleague. I've been working on one to do with a colleague that's an online course, or go back to university if you now have a little more time. Okay, next. Stretching out of your learning style. This photo is here because it is showing how pupils or students can learn about complicated ideas through their kinesthetic channel. They get to touch things and see things. This is a science park. Okay, going on. Next slide. Yes, Alexandra in Northern Macedonia said she's a visual learner, but started doing more kinesthetic things, so movement, and it really was good for her. And Dana specifically tries to use her auditory style, which is the one she doesn't usually use. Okay, the next. And Tanya, who is the editor of Voices for IATEFL, and also was the editor of the conference selections, said she's learning how to edit, and there's a lot of computer-based. She said this is making her more hands-on, something new for her. Okay, the next. So we usually teach the way we learn. Learning to do something different is so important. I'm very visual, much less auditory, and had to learn how to teach listening comprehensions. And if any of you have the chance to teach for a Cambridge exam or another of the international exams, it is a great opportunity to learn how to teach listening. That's where I learned it. So putting in more of these activities or dictations or pictures, things that you find you are not using, have a look at what you use and say, ah, I'm not doing a lot of this or that or the other thing. Look for activities that are detailed and those that are more of an overview, because sometimes we forget. Okay, can we just go back one? Yeah, and try out things you've never done before. An idea is to invite colleagues to your class and ask them what else you could do. They might say, hey, have you ever tried ... Try it out. Okay, our colleagues. Let's have a look at what they have to say. So Sergio finds that socializing and helping colleagues with their English, that the human social side is so important. I know he travels around the world. I don't know if he's been to India. I know he was in Nepal. I've met him at several conferences, but we're always in touch online. And Antonio has worked with his colleagues to teach them how to use concept questions. So not just yes, no, but really getting behind what's there, critical thinking, which is so important for our students to learn. Okay, next. Yeah. B, who was the chair or president of IATEFL Hungary, really felt it was important for them to begin to expand. It's a big country, people live far away, and they set up the Creative Cafe workshops, meeting once a month to hear presentations from colleagues on different topics. And she hopes this spreads throughout the country. And today, with us all being online, this is something you can certainly do throughout India. Not a problem. Get it set up, find your speakers, and get them to talk. You could do it in the form of Pecha Kuchas. So ask colleagues what they do that works. I have to say, I learned about Pecha Kuchas, which I hope you all know. These are the short-term presentations. Each slide is only 20 seconds long, and there are 20 slides. And I learned about this from colleagues. Go to each other's classes. Exchange ideas and materials. Years ago, I taught at a place that had a cafe, and I would meet my colleagues, and a colleague handed me a piece of paper and said, you might be able to use this. Guess what? 35 years later, I am still using the paper she gave me, and it still is one of the top things in my class. Students love it. And find out what colleagues teaching other subjects do in class. A colleague I work with a lot is a mathematics teacher, my worst subject. But finding out what she does in class gave me ideas of something I could do in English. Has anyone done that? Let's see. Okay, just trying to see if there's anything in the chat. Okay. Yes, yeah, it's so valuable. We really have that resource at hand. So our PLN, this lovely matrix was set up by Rosalie Serra in Brazil, someone who I've had the pleasure of meeting 2 to 3 times. You do it in your institute, that's fantastic. And these are people from around the world who Rosalie is friends with. When I look at it, I can point out a number of people, and it was a wonderful thing. So I took this to show our personal learning network. Does everyone know this concept of a personal learning network? Yes? Yeah, I have learned so much from my colleagues. So this is something that began with social media. It is something within either a group like Facebook or in Twitter or any other group or any other social media where you can set up groups. There are many, many groups online for people to share ideas. And this is what we call a personal learning network. It's also colleagues that you telephone with. Okay, the next one. So what is... Yep. Omid said he still works with the people he met on these courses he did. And he asked them for advice about business issues. So how much should I charge for a class? They offer him one-to-one classes, and sometimes they ask for advice on translation issues. I do the same. We have a special interest group page in Facebook for the Business English group. And sometimes I'll come across a word and say, has anyone run into this? I would say join Facebook or Twitter and look for the groups. Look for specific groups that are your specialty. The Business English one is open to everyone. You do not have to be an IATEFL or a BESIG member. So I had a German word I didn't know, and I got all kinds of information from people saying, oh yes, I had other students who asked, and this is what we called it. It was fantastic. Yeah. And this is free. This is out there. Great. Next one. So we'll go to the next slide. Yeah. Social networks for professional purposes and conferences. Yes, where we can make personal connections. So let's hope we can do that in the next few years again. So here, join online groups of teachers. I assume most people at this conference do use social media. Some people are not on social media. I have found for me, it has completely changed my life as a teacher, especially in adult ed. Become active in your teacher association. What I have learned through BESIG and through IATEFL has been invaluable. I go to my business English classes, and I tell them, oh yes, I ran a meeting with somebody who was very difficult. And I say, oh, you understand what we do. You can read about it in a book, but it's very different if you do it yourself. And then stay in touch with these people outside the conferences and workshops. I've had Zoom meetings with people who I haven't seen since this all began. So on the left, you can see it was the IATEFL BESIG committee at a conference in Hungary. And then this was our lovely PLN with Rosalie right in the middle, the one who made this wonderful matrix. These were people, and Sergio, people from Brazil, Spain, and I think Argentina were in this, and Greece, yes. So coming together is great. A new area of ELT. I'm going to give you a minute to look at this. When I do this presentation in countries where they can read the Russian and the, I think it's Ukrainian, they realize what the problem is. What do you think about the English? If I can see the chat. I think I can open it. Ah, okay. And just, is anyone, anything about the English? Okay, it's not the most, it's not absolutely clear what they're talking about. We don't say lavatory pan in most English-speaking countries. So what happens here is, for example, in Graz, Austria, where I live, exactly, it's not really English. We had announcements in English on our public transport, but the translations were a bit off. And I happened to be talking to the person in charge of the public transport in Graz. She was one of my students, and I mentioned that, and she said, oh, we're thinking of retranslating it all and having a native speaker or somebody else do the announcements. I wound up with a job. Just yesterday, I did a new recording of, Main Square, Congress Center, change to tram lines, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this can lead to a new job, which you never even imagined you would get. Noticing these things. Okay, the next slide. Yeah, so I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Usanu in Gambia works as a course coordinator, and Elena does a lot of online teaching using Skype, Google Hangout, and so on. Okay, Natalia is a director of studies, so administration and teacher training, and Omid is a professional translator, consecutive interpreter. More power to you. What a difficult job. And copy editor. So these are things you can start doing. Next one. Yeah, Theodora is working on CLEL. So this whole idea of what's called STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics in EFL. And this is something I would imagine many of you know about, simply because of the extremely developed technological know-how that's in India. And Sandy has been a director of studies, CELTA trainer, she blogs, and she went ahead and did an ebook. She's now written several. Something else you can do. Okay, next. Yeah, Dana with her coaching certificate, and Sue was a member of IATEFL BESIG, and then she joined the online team, and she's a moderator for ELT Chat. So we're going to have a look at that in a bit. Okay, the next one. And Teresa, who was an English teacher, now is in charge of her special needs department and working with children with Asperger's syndrome. So totally different, having to learn how to stretch out of her comfort zone, because that one size fits all strategies does not work with these particular children. So she is learning as she's teaching. Okay, next. Sylvia is becoming a tutor and presenting and blogging. And Rob Howard began the EFL Talks in 2015 to help teachers get CPD from worldwide experts for free. I'm going to mention the EFL Talks in a bit anyway. Okay, and Tanya published her first EAP textbook in 2015, works on ELT materials development, lots and lots of things. And Alexandra has written a fiction book for EFL learners. And she entered the international stage by doing a workshop at an IATEFL conference. And I got to know her after the IATEFL Pecha Kucha, where I went up to her and said, that was so amazing, I want to meet you. So this is a way to enter the international market. Antonio, exchange programs, and Vicki with her ELT video production company. Vicki is a business English trainer who I have known for a long time from the UK, now lives in the US, and she and her husband began this company. Okay, next. So you can try writing or contributing. There are places you can write, for example, newsletters from teaching associations or for voices from IATEFL. Work together with colleagues. Learn to be an examiner. I was a Cambridge examiner for 5 years. I learned an enormous amount doing it. Learn how to translate or interpret and present at conferences. Okay. So when I started this, I thought I can stand here or sit here and tell you all the things you should be doing. But unless I've actually done this throughout my career, it's not authentic. So I sat down and I made myself a timeline. In 1981, I came to Austria. Took a little while, but I began doing adult ed the next year, and then did a diploma in adult ed in German, which was quite a challenge because I came here without the language, and started teacher training, and then did neurolinguistic programming to learn about new ideas in training and teaching. Took a chance for conference presentation and so on. And yeah, wait, can we go back? Yeah. Jumped in 2001 and got a book published. I sent a manuscript out to many, many people. It was sent back to me, and finally somebody said, yes, we're interested. It was Austria. And then, as mentioned earlier, I wound up as chair of our teacher association. Again, a learning thing, a real learning process. And see, I became a Cambridge oral examiner in 2009. And I was already an older teacher, but it doesn't matter. It's still something you can learn. Then in, where was this? 2014, I taught online for the first time. It was a real experience, and began blogging. And then IATEFL President, and then a research project. I actually have done one on this topic, and republished a book. And now in 2020, I am beginning to work on my first online teacher trainer course. So what I suggest you do when this is over, make a timeline. See what you've done, and then perhaps expand it to the future to see what you might still want to do. Okay, I hope this is useful. So what's out there? These are some ideas. I don't need to read them to you. Anything here that looks like something you might want to try and do? Sometimes the chat comes up. I'm just looking. Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything. If there are any ideas here. Okay, I don't see anything. So we're going to go on. Next one. Okay, so these are things you can do. ELT Chat is a Twitter discussion that takes place. It was once a week. I believe it still is. There's a topic. There's a moderator, and people respond in Twitter. And when I joined ELT Chat is when I began my PLN, and it's free. Next, ELT Pics. So many people don't know this. This began about 7 years ago, I think. It was started by a group of teachers. It is photos taken by teachers for other teachers to use for free, completely for free, and the copyright is Creative Commons. You can use it in your lessons or print them out. You can use them in presentations. You cannot use it in published material because it's Creative Commons. But it is organized completely in albums. You can't see them, but it's things like everyday objects, emotions, adjectives, and so on. They are wonderful. And you'll be getting these slides and all of the links. Okay, next. The No Project. This began in Greece. It is a award-winning and now shortlisted for the ELTons, a global campaign that goes out to raise youth awareness of human trafficking, an incredibly important project. And there are now lesson plans for free that you can download, including PowerPoint slides, all the worksheets to use in class. And I hope it's something you find useful. Incredibly important. Okay, next. EFL Talks, I mentioned earlier, Rob Howard. These are run on a regular basis, and he does these often with topics. We did one, for example, for Puerto Rico. We ran one. Or we ran one on Women's Day in March a couple years ago. Or he picks another topic, and each talk is only 10 minutes, and each presenter has 10 slides. And they are, again, free of charge. So British Council still offers a certain amount of material. You can go to their website and see what's there. Next. And simple English videos. I talked about videos. Vicki, as I said, started her own company. And we're going to go to the next slide, and you're going to see an example of one of her videos, which is about how to teach telephone language. So she says, we teach meaning. They come from context, and this is the best way to teach it. Okay, let's have a look at the video. And these are free.
So, 2 for you, 2 for me, 2 for you. Hi, this is Vicki.
This is Barack Obama.
Barack who?
This is Barack Obama. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Well, I'm doing great, and I know I'm interrupting you, but I figured you might take my call.
Well, we're a bit busy.
How's your mom doing these days?
Mum's fine. Was there something you wanted?
And one of the things I think is terrific is baseball, you know.
Baseball. So you called to talk about baseball?
Well, you know, I am a big baseball fan, and I grew up in Hawaii. My earliest memories of baseball were actually...
Look, I'm sorry, Barack, but we're a bit busy at the moment.
In medicine, is that correct?
Yeah, this isn't a good time.
Well, now, I understand that...
Try calling next week, or next month. We'd love to hear from you then.
Well, I appreciate that. Tell your mom I said hi. You take care of yourself.
You too. Thanks, Barack. Bye. So where were we?
2 for you.
2 for me, 2 for you, 2 for me.
Okay, so
Subscribe
these are
to the channel to see
wonderful. Yeah, they are free. If you go to Vicki's channel, you will see a list of specific vocabulary that she teaches through video and grammar. And I used to upload or give the link to my students on Moodle. You can do it now, just send it to them. And then afterwards, discuss it, talk about how it's used, and practice with this. So there's also things like checking in at an airport, greeting guests. There are both communication videos and specific grammar and vocabulary, and they're wonderful. Great, let's go to the next, which is a TED Talk about trying something new.
A few years ago, I felt like I was stuck in a rut. So I decided to follow in the footsteps of the great American philosopher, Morgan Spurlock, and try something new for 30 days. The idea is actually pretty simple. Think about something you've always wanted to add to your life and try it for the next 30 days. It turns out 30 days is just about the right amount of time to add a new habit or subtract a habit, like watching the news, from your life. There's a few things that I learned while doing these 30-day challenges. The first was, instead of the months flying by forgotten, the time was much more memorable. This was part of a challenge I did to take a picture every day for a month, and I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing that day. I also noticed that as I started to do more and harder 30-day challenges, my self-confidence grew. I went from desk-dwelling computer nerd to the kind of guy who bikes to work for fun. Even last year, I ended up hiking up Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa. I would never have been that adventurous before I started my 30-day challenges. I also figured out that if you really want something badly enough, you can do anything for 30 days. Have you ever wanted to write a novel? Every November, tens of thousands of people try to write their own 50,000-word novel from scratch in 30 days. It turns out, all you have to do is write 1,667 words a day for a month. So I did. By the way, the secret is not to go to sleep until you've written your words for the day. You might be sleep deprived, but you'll finish your novel. Now, is my book the next great American novel? No, I wrote it in a month. It's awful. But for the rest of my life, if I meet John Hodgman at a TED party, I don't have to say, I'm a computer scientist. No, if I want to, I can say, I'm a novelist. So here's one last thing I'd like to mention. I learned that when I made small, sustainable changes, things I could keep doing, they were more likely to stick. There's nothing wrong with big, crazy challenges. In fact, they're a ton of fun, but they're less likely to stick. When I gave up sugar for 30 days, day 31 looked like this. So here's my question to you. What are you waiting for? I guarantee you the next 30 days are going to pass whether you like it or not. So why not think about something you have always wanted to try and give it a shot for the next 30 days? Thanks.
Okay, let's go on to the next slide. I hope everyone knows TED Talks. So one last thought. If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always gotten. So unless we change ourselves, we will continue in the same path, and the feedback and everything else we get comes back to us. So you can see this girl going up the slide the other direction. It's a new experience. Okay, next slide. So something for you to think about. What are you going to try out? When are you going to do it? And what's the first step? And I think now we can actually go on to questions. And then I'll just, the last slides anyway are the links. We can go to the end if you want. Yeah, let's go to the very end. You'll be getting this, and the next slide is, those are acknowledgments, and these are the links you'll be getting with the PDF. Okay, so questions? Should I open this Q&A?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I will read out them for you.
Okay, I've actually opened it. All right.
Okay.
The first one asks about PLN groups you can join online.
Yes.
As I said, I would have a look at, IATEFL special interest groups often have their own Facebook pages. So I think there's one for teacher development, there business English for sure. So if you just go to Facebook and look for those, or go to type in the search function, groups for teachers. I know there are groups on webinars, there are groups on teachers teaching, or start your own. I started a group myself, and it's amazing how many people came in. So it is definitely a way to do this. I hope that answers the question. Okay, I'm not sure what inculcates sustained interest of learners in multilingual non-English contexts. Oh boy, okay, I'm sorry, this is not my field. Cognitive semantics is not anything I have dealt with. And sustaining interest, I'm not in a multilingual non-English context. I'm in a non-English context, but my students all speak German. The only thing I can suggest is when I am enthusiastic about what I'm doing, my students are more enthusiastic. I don't know if that helps. How can NLP help in teaching? Well, what I learned in NLP are things, first of all, was the visual auditory kinesthetic approach to things, so multisensory. And I mentioned that, in other words, don't just teach showing pictures, don't just teach doing listening comprehensions, expand what you do. In your lesson, include something that is listening, include something that is visual, include something that is kinesthetic, and do that. The other thing, for example, this idea of if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten, also comes from NLP. NLP includes a goal model, which helps you to see how you can achieve goals that are achievable. Like Matt Kutz says, they have to be sustainable. These are ideas that came out of neurolinguistic programming, but I think the most important thing in NLP is rapport. What I found in my years of teaching, I have a group that started with me, I think 5 years ago. It was set for 3 months. At the end of the 3 months, they renewed, then they renewed again, then they renewed again, then they renewed again. And when the lockdown came in Austria, this came in the middle of March, I got an email saying we can't meet in person. 2 weeks later, I got an email from them saying, we miss you. We want to continue our lessons online. And we've done that. We have our last one next week online, and then we'll see. But this is rapport. This is that connection that we have between people. Dedicated chat group for ESP teachers. The only thing that I would know about would be the IATEFL ESP special interest group or the TESOL one. We definitely do in business English, whether specifically for ESP, I think you would have to look at those two groups. So have a look at both TESOL and IATEFL for ESP. You want to answer this? Yes, please. Atul, sorry, we use first names in American English. Did you want to answer that about the special interest groups?
No, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Pecha Kucha is, as I mentioned, it's a presentation form. You can look it up online. It started in Japan, and you have 20 slides. Each slide is only 20 seconds, and very little text. So in class, I do this to train students in giving presentations, and I tell them to choose a topic they are an expert on. I do half. So they have 10 slides, and they have to speak about these 10 slides, but because there's very little text, they are not reading their slides. And because they have to set up their computer to automatically change, they cannot talk and talk and talk and talk. The worst part of student presentations is they read their slides or they read a text. In a Pecha Kucha, they can't do that. They must speak freely, and when that slide changes, they must go on. It is brilliant for teaching students. I hope that was clear. And have a look on the internet. You'll find explanations and examples everywhere. So we did NLP, okay. CPD to enhance teaching and research. Well, IATEFL has a research SIG. I would definitely have a look at that. I don't do a lot of research. I did a little with university, but the research SIG is very active. What do I enjoy about conferences? Well, I think it's learning about different cultures. I have learned so much. When I go to a conference, I meet the people, I taste the food, I go out with them, I talk to them. it makes a huge difference for me. The online stuff is great because at least we have the opportunity, but it's not the same as being there. Okay, so I hope you got some ideas from this. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, ma'am. You have answered all the 10 questions which were there in the question and answer box. So
Great.
thank you very much, ma'am, for a very enlightening, engaging, and entertaining presentation.
Good.
Please accept our sincere appreciation for the outstanding presentation you have made. It was very interesting to hear about your experiences with many apt examples. Your stories about your teaching, then technology, professional development, different learning styles, sharing and learning from colleagues, innovative areas in ELT and online platforms that teachers can explore were very fascinating. And especially the slides you showed gave us a close look at different aspects of ELT that we couldn't have gained in any other way. So thank you so much for sharing your time and experiences with us. We are really grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences with all the participants. Thank you very much. Over to you, Tarun sir.
Yes, no, I'm just here to thank Marjorie for her time. You know, like you have given a unique session for our conference, and we could see in the chat box, most all our participants are delighted and happy as, you know, like I'm really amazed the way the presentation was planned and delivered. So, you know, with all the sessions, we hope that we are going to get a new learning opportunity. And thank you very much for your time and effort. And we do hope to work with you closely in the near future. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you for inviting me, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Bye.